I'm Jehangir Mehta and trained at the CIA, but I think more so my practice of sociology is coming more to play along with the aspects of food in my approach to mindfulness. And I take care of mindfulness with students at a couple of the university, including Long Island University, Montclair, Rutgers, Rider, and aspects of that. For me, what the reason I am at the conference is, of course, firstly to do a demo on tomorrow at Copia, which I'm extremely excited about. But I think the main essence of this conference was from last year, our collaboration out here, which we created when we came here to do this presentation. It just gave a sense of happiness, and I think that happiness is what I try to see to it, that I can transform into every other human being. And it could sometimes be from just looking at an olive branch to tasting an olive and finally the products that come out of it, everything aspects of those, and how that can transform into the aspects of mindfulness. I think the message I would like to impart is, besides the aspect of how great olive oil is, olives are, I think the aspect of just understanding the attributes that it has played over the years. It might be a new thought to some people even today, or it could be some stuff that they've just heard, and to some people who have zero knowledge of it, and how we can showcase that in a more fluid format. There have been call it wrong marketing, right from stating that olive oil can't go to higher degrees in temperature, or you can never fry in olive oil, or you can't do this with olive oil, or you can't bake with olive oil. Like small things that people have just thought of that's not possible without using butter or stuff or any of those ingredients, and how you can just change that small perception of no, it's absolutely possible, and it has been done over the years. It's not like a brand new chef, or it's not a brand new idea. I think it's very I think most people are people who sharpen a product, not innovate a product. I think innovation has been done, it's just trying to sharpen it and bring it to light in a different format. So tomorrow, one of the things which I think, which I'm making three things, but one of them is taking leftovers, and which I've named as ghetto chic. And ghetto chic is basically the aspect of, and we did this at the restaurant too in New York, where we took the aspects of something which is considered broken, consider it unwanted, wasted, whichever way it is, but there is something good about it. And that's what I try to focus on, the reality of life too with humans. And I always say, a lot of times people showcase the aspect of vulnerability as the bad, or showcase it as a weakness, and it's not at all. In fact, it's your biggest strength when you showcase vulnerability. And I talk about vulnerability, sustainability through the aspects of vulnerability, and the showcasing that of how you can transform products of leftovers, right from talking about someone's waste. It could be a dish created by the best chef, and how the waste of that can still create a beautiful meal. I think the beauty of that is very, very important. And that comes from, I think, different aspects of your life. It comes from different aspects of where you are in your beliefs, but just seeing that can be very, very fulfilling. And so that is one part of the demo which I'm very, very proud of. The other two dishes that we are making, one is with fig and as well as eggplant, and it's a very these are both ingredients very much rooted in my Persian culture, and taking that aspects and making and showcasing a chutney with the aspects of using olive oil as one of the bases to flavor it is something that is fantastic. And the same thing goes with a Persian salad with pomegranates and all of, so just showcasing a lot of the aspects of my culture, as well as understanding how olive oil very often is not perceived as an oil which you would use to put another flavorant over it. It's many times people feel that, taking a neutral oil and then adding mustard seeds to it, or then adding a chili to it would be great. But you could do the same with olive oil. So those are the different aspects and spheres of what I wish to showcase and bring to light. I just feel that it's not just about chefs, it's about each individual. There are maybe only a certain amount of people who are chefs, but there is every human who is a chef because they feed themselves or feed someone else on a day-to-day basis. So I feel that, I think just giving them that knowledge of how versatile the soil can be, as well as how sustainable the oil is, as well as the push towards making byproducts with it, which is not only, I don't see byproducts as just the aspect of giving life to and stretching that item as an olive or the waste product of that olive, but I see it as an aspect of society, because when you do that, you've created another job. You've created a job for another human to do. Maybe making fiber out of that seed is again creating another industry and again giving birth to someone else's day-to-day welfare. And I see any aspects of stretching a product in every possible way. I see it as one less garbage bag being used because of that product not going in the landfill. It's a combination. It's a circular way of looking at it, and I think that's the way I think we should all look at each other. And you don't need Chanel or I just say Chanel, but any type of product like that to coat your lips from getting chapped. You could just take your own olive oil bottle and just apply it in the morning over your lips with your own finger. You don't need any of those aspects. It could be as simple as that. You don't have to go to buy a cosmetic aspect of olive oil. You could just use that directly. So those are the small things if we can look into and create change, I think it would be fantastic. I think best way of dispelling any doubt is practicing it. You don't have to listen to an authority as a chef, coming from myself or anyone for that matter. I don't think any large organization needs to push that out. If you just keep an open mind and say, why don't I try it and see where it goes, and take it, I think that would be the best way, as I always say, is just play with that misconception and see where it might fall. I think it's the same thing with wine, right? You could possibly put the best maybe wine curated, but if you just don't like that flavor profile, you might still like the third best wine as your favorite wine. So it's the same thing. It's just about your palate, your taste, and so keep that. When you know that science is behind it, where it says that nothing is happening with it, it is perfectly all right. So why don't you? But if you still feel that, no, that's something that doesn't work for me, I completely get it. It may not work for you for many factors. It may not work for you for monetary factors, which is a huge aspect that we have to consider. And or it might just not be something that you enjoy because of the way your palate has not got used to it. But as we always say, that it takes at least 20 tries for your tongue and your palate and your brain to change that perception of taste. It's not the first time. You need to do it at least 20 times before your palate will say, it's not so bad, or now I see the reasoning, or whatever that might be. So even with my students and even my kids, I always say we have to keep pushing it. And sometimes you push it in a way which is unknown. And I always think that is the best way to do it, except if you know that someone is going to have some allergy to it. That's a whole different issue. But what I mean to say when I say is unknown is sometimes you have to take a vehicle of change than the whole aspect of change. And when I mean that is say for instance, let's say just using it in a dumpling. A lot of people like dumplings. A lot of people like sandwiches or whatever. So it could be where you're using it in a product which carries so much of love that they might forget the aspect that other product is being used, and use it with the start as 30%, go to 50%. Next thing you know, you're frying the dumpling in olive oil, or you're using olives in a recipe that started off without a salad which didn't have olives, and then you started adding a little with the being chopped initially. First maybe using it as olive oil, then using it as chopped olives being there, next using it as an olive tapenade as your dressing as a salad. So you could just take it step by step, and I think sometimes those step by step changes perception, and it can change and cultivate your palate to make your brain understand that flavor profile much better. For me, I think the most important thing is not just about eating good food, it's about how you eat good food, or how you eat per se, is the aspect of taking a break in a formatted formula. And it can right away be from just not having the stress with it, which a lot of people carry. Even if you sometimes might have 10 minutes, but you can stretch that 10 minutes in a different format by just sitting down, by sitting in an environment which is much more calming, by having music bring into your life, by having breathing exercises done prior to, it could even be just 1 minute of breathing exercises, by just holding hands. I mean, grace was not just the aspect of a prayer, it is an aspect of calmness to bring to your soul. A lot of times, religion, all of those aspects came from a very different place of love than just religion as a dogma, or religion practiced in a way that we think it is just God and we need to do that. There is much more to it, calmness that it provides, which we, I think, as society sometimes forget. And I think just peeling those and going to the root aspects of mindfulness, and that's what I do. I see to it that how we can see eye to eye, and see to it that there are no phones used. See to it that we use cutlery and crockery instead of plasticware, and eat that same food, and how it changes the perception. Because when you eat food with silverware and china, your brain is almost transporting you into the aspect that you're eating at home, you're eating in a very high-end restaurant. And those two just thought processes makes it feel that you have time on your hands. Whereas plastic and paper will make you feel you're in a fast food environment. Then you may not be. You might be in this beautiful spot here. But if that's provided, it gives you that impression, and your brain is not taking that aspect of calmness and mindfulness that it needs to receive. And the aspects of just, I think, body language. I think we tend to ignore body language a lot in terms of how humans behave, in terms of how stressed people are, and how it can, just a small change can cultivate that. It could be the aspect of waiting for your food, say, for instance, in the university. But if it flashes and says your food is going to be ready in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, that wait will not feel so much. But if you're not knowing that your food is not going to come out in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, the aspect of anticipation is making someone, I mean, that was done in the London subways. I don't know if you knew that. That was a whole experiment done, where when the time was not mentioned, everyone just thought it was so frustrating. And so the minute they changed that aspect of putting the time when the train was going to come, suddenly they saw a complete change of that same human environment. It's just going to take 3 minutes and the train will be here. So it's just the way a problem is presented and it's seen. And it's that I try and see to it that we can do some dance moves before we come to the end of the line. And suddenly you feel much more relaxed, and you don't even realize where that time has gone. And the movement of holding hands, the movement of all these things, high-pitched sounds in the dining rooms, chirping, humming, all of these make such a huge difference. And the things when to eat, what timings to eat, what fruits, vegetables, all that makes a huge difference. So the how is equally important, and the why of eating is equally important, and not just what. And I think that is where I focus on. With knowledge comes power, and just letting them know that just a small food choice, like it could be, for instance, an apple and bananas are just kept randomly on the table for you to grab. But in New York, an apple is more sustainable than a banana because of the way it's transported and finally got to you in your hand. And if it says that the apple has less of a carbon footprint than a banana, where you really didn't care, you had zero aspects of, you just wanted to eat a fruit or just have something to take with you when you were leaving that. And you would now suddenly say, you pick up the apple because of that information which was given to you, which was provided to you. And next thing you know, you've gone and told the next person, hey, did you know this, that I was more sustainable today? It could be small things like that, which sometimes, again, it's how you perceive things can make a huge change. And that is where I put my main focus on how to create a better and more productive mind for students and a society as whole, because I think that is something that we very often overlook, and we talk about even in our food business, right? We talk about broken vegetables, and I always call them, in my language, at the restaurant, we used to never say these are unwanted, ugly. We never used those words. We always called it cosmetically challenged vegetables and cosmetically challenged fish, because I called myself cosmetically challenged. So I thought it was a much more cozier term to use. And so I think it's pretty much in that format is how you present and your story. And each and every human has a story to say. Sometimes I read articles. I mean, the article will read so beautiful. Oh, and it would be so captivated to read this article. And then it would be like, you have to pay for this article, or because you don't have subscription to that. I think information which can change society as a whole should be given for free. I think when such information is freely given, I think to a lay person, I think change happens. I think very often, sometimes I really feel sorry that why this article is not given. I mean, I'm not just saying olive oil, I'm just saying as a general, some huge informational piece. And you'd say, this is so important to society. I think this shouldn't be where CNN should make $1 out of this article, or Wall Street Journal should not. That this article should be free knowledge, because it's extremely powerful, what the writer has written. And I think the same thing, if there's any information which comes out of this conference, and if it is guarded only if meant for a certain block of humans, I think if we can just open it up to any human with that information that we gather, I mean, which really could make change, that type of information, I think which would be fantastic and very powerful.